Tonight, Sydney's underworld set to explode after the execution of a dangerous drug lord. Residents near the new airport braced for a fight to keep the peace in their neighbourhoods. Businesses go bust at a frightening rate, claims we're already in a shallow recession. The desperate search for a Sydney mother and her young boy. The dramatic end to a standoff in Granville, and there's a link to an infamous Sydney murder. And a red letter day for Australia Post with a massive new home in Western Sydney.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. He was a Mr. Big of Sydney's drug underworld with close bikie links. But now Alan Muradian is the latest victim of our escalating gangland war. The 48-year-old was gunned down during a brazen daylight ambush in the eastern suburbs. Police say he had a target on his back.
It's rare to see a gangster's gun hours after it killed. But this is the pistol used to execute one of Sydney's criminal kingpins. Another deadly hit in the city's bloody gangland war.
This is a well-planned, executed murder of a high-level criminal identity.
Police rushed to a Bondi Junction apartment building around 8:15 this morning. In the underground car park, Alan Muradian was dead in the front seat of his car.
He was sort of face down and they had police over him. I thought they were sort of trying to arrest him. I didn't realise he'd been shot.
The gunman managed to get away in a Porsche SUV before dumping it 1 kilometre away. But they failed to torch it, left behind the gun, bullet casings, a phone, all key evidence. A second car was found in Zetland. It was set alight.
Both those vehicles, we're looking at the links between to the shooting and to any persons involved in the shooting.
At least 2, police believe.
It's absolutely crazy. It's just like you don't expect this in your building.
Alan Muradian was well known to police. In 2011, he was jailed for his role in the Golden Gun drug ring, which imported at least 200 kilograms of cocaine into Australia. His crime was motivated by personal profit and greed, a judge claimed. The proceeds used to deck out his Pennant Hills mansion, nicknamed the Versace Palace, including a ceiling painted like the Sistine Chapel.
Underworld sources say Alan Muradian was involved in a secret cartel that controlled Sydney's drug markets. His position considered higher than notorious crime families. Who wanted him dead remains unknown, but retaliation is highly likely.
Muradian's own wife once dubbed him the Tony Soprano of Australia's cocaine trade. She even warned him he would not survive if he kept showing off. She was right.
He obviously had a big target on his back.
And Bill Hogan is at the scene tonight. Bill, how concerned are police about revenge attacks?
Well, Mark, there are certainly fears for retribution. Alan Muradian played a major role in organised crime with close links to the Comanchero bikie gang. It's very unlikely that they will let this execution go unpunished. But of course, the 48-year-old knew that he lived a lifestyle that came with risks. It's believed over the last 12 months he's been concerned for his life. He's changed addresses, he's changed cars in hope that nobody would find him. But this morning they did. Mark, at the end, the criminal mastermind couldn't keep himself safe.
Bill Hogan with the latest from Bondi Junction. Thank you. Hours after the release of flight paths for the new Western Sydney Airport, a campaign is already underway to quash them. Many locals are readying for battle, with some suburbs warned of a round-the-clock noise as loud as a washing machine and enough to wake them.
Western Sydney's new arrival. The flight paths for the new airport.
It's a shock. A plane will come over the high street of Penrith almost 40 times a day between 5,000 and 8,000 feet.
The flight paths have been designed to mitigate noise as best we possibly can.
Morning, noon and night aircraft overhead from Revesby to Bonnyrigg, Bella Vista to Kellyville, Glenmore Park to McGrath's Hill. Overnight, a narrower field via corridors over Werrington, Llandialo and Windsor, but also Horsley Park, Rooty Hill, Marsden Erskine Park. Weather permitting, paths over largely vacant land in the southwest, but still impacting Penrith, Cranebrook, Richmond. At 60 decibels, the same as an air conditioner and enough to wake some, Kemps Creek, Hassel Grove, St Mary's and St Clair. At 70 decibels, as loud as a washing machine, enough to stop a conversation, parts of Luddenham and Erskine Park.
It'll be a bit hard if they go through, like my house is here.
We probably won't really stay in the area for much, try and move out further.
Unlike Sydney Airport, it's 24 hours a day.
At least they get a break after a certain time, whereas, 3 o'clock in the morning, our windows could be getting rattled open.
But a curfew out west?
No, this airport at Western Sydney International Airport has been designed to be curfew-free.
Western Sydney Airport probably has the least impact of any airport in the world. So I have to take into account altitude, the height of the plane when it flies over them.
Concerns for the Blue Mountains World Heritage Area.
So we're higher to the planes. The soundscape here is different with the ridges, the cliffs and the valleys. We'll be launching a campaign against these flight paths.
Once the airport noise starts in late 2026, it will only grow, with Western Sydney expected to handle 25,000 flights that first year, by 2033 rising to 81,000, and by 2050, 185,000 flights a year.
Later this year, another report will examine the flight path's impact, whether homes will need to be soundproofed or purchased.
And Paul Caddick joins me. Paul, what should concerned residents do now?
Well, Mark, first head to the Western Sydney Airport website and check out the detail of these flight paths. You can search for your address and how it could be impacted, and then send any comments to the authorities. Blue Mountains and Blacktown councils telling us they have significant concerns. Penrith saying it'll also weigh in. Now, whether there could be any shifting of these flight paths, the Minister told us today they are constrained, having to work around the Richmond Air Base, Bankstown, Camden and Sydney airports. But only feedback will tell them if any changes must be made before they're locked in.
OK, Paul. Thank you. Some senior Liberals claim Gladys Berejiklian was the victim of a political lynching and the state's Corruption Commission might have cost them government. The comments come ahead of Thursday's landmark report, which will determine if the former Premier was corrupt.
Daryl Maguire's lawyer fronts court as his client defends federal visa fraud charges and braces for state corruption findings.
The client's got nothing to say about the report. We obviously haven't seen it.
No one has, despite the ICAC publicly probing the disgraced MP and his former Premier partner for years.
It's been a long time. Mr Maguire's been investigated since 2018.
It's 1,030 days since Operation Keppel was launched, 635 days since it was expanded to include Gladys Berejiklian, triggering her resignation, 604 days since she last gave evidence. Liberal ally Matt Keane is calling for the integrity body to be reformed, so investigations are kept secret until findings are made public.
You shouldn't be lynched by a political witch hunt without the reasons being known.
Commissioner Ruth McCall should have handed down her report last year, but her deadline has been extended twice.
We're watching it very closely because I recognise a fundamental principle, and that is justice delayed is justice denied.
It's that final delay that's angered Liberals the most, many believing ICAC pushing these findings beyond the March election cost them government.
It is an extraordinary delay, and I think it's something that we won't want to see repeated in future.
Amelia Brace, 7 News.
Police are asking for help to find a woman and her baby boy missing from Parramatta for almost 24 hours. Leonie Ryan joins me from Parramatta Police Headquarters. Leonie, why the urgency?
Mark, police are saying at this stage that the mother and son are believed to be with a man of African appearance, and there are concerns for their welfare. The mother and son are 24-year-old Abby Trappel and her 4-month-old son Jabari Williams. They come from Sydney southwest, where friends and family raised the alarm when they couldn't contact Abby. She and the baby were last seen at a home in Carrington Street, Parramatta, at about 7 o'clock last night. They might be travelling with a 23-year-old man known to them of African appearance and of thin build. Mark, anyone with information is being urged to contact police or Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000.
OK, Leonie, thank you. In a dramatic push to speed up home building approvals, almost 350 public servants will be moved into the planning department. The workers will be taken out of the Greater Cities Commission and the Western Parkland City Authority to help streamline government.
We've had more agencies and departments than ever before, yet processing times are at their slowest point in nearly a decade.
In the last 2 years, planning processing times have doubled to 116 days. A leading economist is now warning Australia is about to fall into a shallow recession as businesses go bust at the highest rate in 7 years. The opposition is heaping blame on the Albanese government, claiming it's distracted by the Voice debate.
Jessica Bailey is closing her vegan grocery stores after 13 years, moving all her business online, letting 6 staff go.
I know a lot of people in small businesses at the moment and they're all just hanging on by their fingernails.
868 businesses sought insolvency and restructuring advice last month, the biggest number since 2015.
It's obviously due to increased interest rates and increased supply costs.
Small businesses facing big pressures, consumer spending falling, wages rising, power bills soaring.
We are using all measures at our disposal to put that downward pressure on inflation,
including $3 billion in electricity bill relief funded with the states. But opposition leader Peter Dutton claims the Prime Minister's distracted.
He's obsessed in relation to the Voice and other issues, and I think he's taken his eye off the ball on economic policy, and Australians are paying the price for that.
What started in the construction sector now broadening to restaurants, retailers, even childcare operators. KPMG warning it's all heading one way.
We will experience a shallow recession.
And with inflation remaining stubbornly high and the Reserve Bank meeting again next week to consider interest rates, small business is bracing for more bad news.
There are going to be so many more of us closing down in the next couple of months.
Now putting their dreams up for sale. Mark Riley, 7 News.
In breaking news, 3 people have been injured in a workplace accident in Western Sydney. It's understood they were pinned to the ground when several pallets fell at a Woolworths distribution centre in Minchinbury. It happened shortly before 4 o'clock. One person was flown to hospital. Russian President Vladimir Putin has finally surfaced after that damaging weekend uprising by a rebel army within his own borders. He's now called them traitors, but the international community is increasingly doubtful that he can survive long term.
Dueling accounts of Russia's short-lived coup in a stern 5-minute TV address. Vladimir Putin brands organisers of the astonishing march to within 200 kilometres of Moscow traitors.
The organisers of this rebellion cannot but understand that they will be brought to justice.
And yet no direct mention of Yevgeny Prigozhin, the old Putin ally last seen here, an apparent hero after making a deal to end the uprising. Today, whereabouts unknown, he called his Wagner forces' incendiary march a masterclass on how the ordinary Russian military should have approached the war in Ukraine, but insisted he was not out to overthrow his president. Vladimir Putin now trying to move beyond the damaging spectacle of an uprising he had to negotiate his way out of. Here at the White House, they're not yet sure Putin's problems are over.
But it's still too early to reach a definitive conclusion about where this is going.
The Putin speech and this televised meeting with security chiefs meant to signal strength and control, but many see a wounded Russian leader.
His grip and power is diminishing.
And a struggling Russian war effort.
The morale on that side of this conflict starting to crumble.
In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
Taking the trip north from Sydney on the Pacific Highway will soon be quicker as construction of the Coffs Harbour bypass begins. The Prime Minister dropping in this afternoon on workers who'll build 3 tunnels and 14 kilometres of road.
Take some 12 minutes off the trip by removing 12,000 vehicles, both cars and heavy vehicles, from the centre of Coffs Harbour.
The new highway should open to traffic by late 2026. Crucial inflation figures are out tomorrow with a fall expected, but not enough to spare home loan borrowers from another interest rate hike. And as finance editor Gemma Acton explains, consumers haven't been this worried for this long in decades.
Mark, consumer confidence actually rose a little last week, but even so, it is still stuck around recessionary levels. Confidence has now been below 80 for 17 weeks running, its longest stretch of misery since 1990-91. Persistent inflation is largely to blame, fueling a cost of living crisis in everything from energy to groceries. Tomorrow we'll likely hear it's fallen slightly from 6.8% in April, but still nowhere near the Reserve Bank's 2 to 3% target. The impact this gloom is having on consumers, the engine of our economy, will become clearer on Thursday when the retail sales numbers for May drop. That will give us more clues as to whether the Reserve Bank will hike interest rates again next week, as most economists expect. Mark.
Gemma, thank you. Secret and damaging recordings of Donald Trump have been exposed where he seems to incriminate himself over the documents he hid inside his Florida mansion. They're crucial in the federal case against him, and for the first time, the public can now hear them.
In his own words, it sounds like Trump knows the law.
See, as president, I could have declared it. Now I can't, but this is classic.
In an audio recording, the former president can be heard flaunting papers.
Except it is highly confidential, secret.
That information, allegedly top secret military documents outlining a plan to attack Iran.
I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers.
It comes less than 2 weeks after Donald Trump pleaded not guilty to 37 federal charges, accused of hoarding and mishandling classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago home.
Today we witness the most evil and heinous abuse of power in the history of our country.
And specifically defended the recording just last week.
You were recording? It wasn't a document. Okay. I had lots of paper. I had copies of newspaper articles.
The audio, apparently recorded at his Bedminster Golf Club in 2021, is central to the prosecution's case. Portions were available to read. It was outlined in the 49-page indictment.
Now it comes to life, though. You hear the tone, you hear who's in the room, you hear that he means it, you hear that he's actually shuffling papers.
Trump, who's remained defiant, will have his day in court. In the United States, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
Time to check the forecast now with Angie Asimus. Angie, much more settled today.
Certainly was, Mark. Those icy winds eased right back from gusts around 70 to 100 kilometres per hour yesterday to well below 50 for the most part today. That cold blast has left a longer impression on the ski fields, though. Another 25 centimetres of fresh snow at Thredbo overnight. Back in the CBD, the temperatures dropped back to 15 degrees right now, and the cloud cover is starting to build. Those grey skies linked to a broader change. We have a rain band extending into the state's northwest here, and that is what will mean for us tomorrow. Wet weather steadily tracking towards the coast. We'll generally see under 10 millimetres through these orange and yellow zones. Details on how long the showers will last a little bit later, Mark.
See you then, Angie. OK. A terrifying crash shuts down Parramatta Road. Next, a mother and 2 children trapped in the Auburn rollover. A Granville man in custody after threatening police with a nail gun. A man jailed for life for a deadly nightclub attack. Later, the hidden dangers of at-home beauty treatments, why people are risking permanent damage. And a towering inferno triggers a desperate emergency operation. That's next. Welcome back. A mother and 2 of her children had a terrifying crash on Parramatta Road at Auburn this morning. They needed to be rescued after their car flipped onto its side and mounted the footpath. The family members were checked over by paramedics but were OK. From Saturday, many workers can expect more money in the bank. On July the 1st, the superannuation guarantee rate, the minimum amount your employer has to pay, will increase from 10.5% to 11%. The minimum wage will rise by 5.75% to $882 a week. Also increasing the retirement age. You'll need to be 67 to get the aged pension. There has been a tense standoff in Sydney's west when a man barricaded himself inside a home and threatened police with a nail gun. After 4 hours, officers had had enough, using flash grenades to force their way in.
Slumped into the arms of officers after an explosive takedown.
They all had vests on. They had circled around the house. They were taking cover behind that car.
Mahmoud Khatib kept officers at bay for 4 hours, the standoff shutting down several streets in South Granville.
The police officer told us, no one's allowed out here, go back inside.
The riot squad rolled in when Khatib pulled a nail gun on police. 7 News understands the 40-year-old was wanted on outstanding arrest warrants for shoplifting, common assault and attempting to stalk or intimidate. When police came knocking late yesterday, he barricaded himself inside a bedroom.
Everybody knew exactly who he was and everybody was legitimately concerned for his mental health.
In 2018, his sister was charged over the murder of their mother. Sahim Khatib stabbed the 63-year-old 5 times in her sleep.
I had enough. I skitzed it. I lost it. They used the watermelon knife to kill her. Simple.
She was found not guilty on mental health grounds.
He experienced something that nobody should experience. He's never been the same ever since.
Tonight he's in hospital receiving treatment for his mental health. Annie Puller, 7 News.
A gunman who opened fire inside a Colorado nightclub has been jailed for more than 2,000 years. Anderson Lee Aldrich killed 5 people before revellers tackled him to the ground.
If I hadn't done what I'd done, I could have been one of those people that were injured and or murdered.
What I told the shooter was, I will never forgive you. Only God can do that for you now.
The 23-year-old pleaded guilty to murder and attempted murder and was handed 5 consecutive life sentences. A towering inferno has triggered the emergency evacuation of a high-rise apartment building in the United Arab Emirates. Fire crews won the battle to bring the blaze under control, with no casualties reported so far. Local media are reporting a large blaze broke out at the same complex in 2016. An Airbnb in Malibu has been transformed into a real-life Barbie dream house. It's painted almost entirely pink and comes with a dance floor, a pink slide and a large swimming pool. The makeover comes ahead of the Barbie movie's release next month. There are fears of a backpacker exodus, with visas to Australia rising by $130. Next, will the price hike keep desperately needed farm workers away? The vaccine trial to protect newborn babies from the flu. William joins forces with a Spice Girl to stamp out homelessness for good. A family's dog snatched not once but twice, how they tracked Ollie down.
And soon in sport, the timely boost to the injury-hit Roosters, desperate to stop the slide.
Welcome back. Australian farmers and hospitality employers are outraged at a federal government crackdown on backpackers, jacking up their visa fees by a whopping 25%. They say those travellers are a vital source of labour and the nation can't afford to drive them away.
When Guy's cherries are ripe and ready, young tourists get good money to pick them.
Backpackers do a great service to this country and they actually enjoy working.
But he and many other farmers are worried their foreign workforce might walk or look elsewhere following a federal migration review, with the working holiday maker visa to go up in cost from $510 to $640, 25%.
We're more concerned about the ones from non-English speaking backgrounds and maybe from more developing countries where this is going to be a big increase hike for them.
Well, they're just telling them, go to New Zealand, go to Canada. Don't come to Australia.
There's stress in the hospitality sector too, where there's a shortfall of tens of thousands of workers.
So you rely on your backpackers.
But by the month's end, the work and holiday visa cap will be reduced, potentially slashing the number of inbound workers by around 30%.
This is just going to make it, harder. I mean, we can't fill the positions we've got now. And once we're forecasting a very big summer again.
Polish backpacker Alex told me the red tape to get work in Australia was surprisingly complicated.
It also entails quite a lot of cost. It's very expensive.
Well, the big question is, what does Anthony Albanese and his government have against backpackers?
We should kiss their feet for being here.
Tom Hartley, 7 News.
Australian researchers have launched a new vaccine trial to help protect newborns from the flu. Children under 10 are the worst impacted group this winter, as doctors race to protect young lives.
Mum knows best, and Dr Belinda Gowan is better qualified than most, but even she was shocked by the severity of this year's strain of flu.
Whatever we did, we couldn't wake her up.
Her daughter was rushed to ED and into resus.
Terrifying, your worst nightmare.
Eleanor recovered. 3-year-old Perth boy Mohammed Sadiq Sagaf didn't. Children under 10 are bearing the brunt of this winter, and across Australia, only 20% of under 5s have been vaccinated, and researchers say those who can't be are most vulnerable.
The group that's at greatest risk of flu hospitalisation is those younger than 6 months, but we don't have a licensed vaccine for them.
A trial at Perth Children's Hospital and the Women's and Children's Hospital in Adelaide is hoping to change that by testing the flu vaccine on babies as young as 2 months. They'll receive the same dose as you or I under careful supervision. The trial's funded by telethon donations, but needs more help.
Yeah, we're trying to recruit 160 children across the 2 states over the next year or 2.
It's a safe vaccine, it's a robust vaccine, and it offers the best protection that we've got.
To give the smallest immune systems a boost and win the race against the winter bug. Jessica Page, 7 News.
The Prince of Wales' push to end homelessness in the UK has been given a boost with some added star power. But William's plan to help in his biggest project since becoming heir to the throne has attracted some critics, with claims he's wading into political territory.
Prince William's latest project given some added spice.
Look at this, it's amazing.
The former Ginger Spice, Gerry Halliwell, joining the Prince of Wales on his whistle-stop tour of the UK, launching Homewards, a series of local programs to tackle homelessness. He hopes to eradicate it, backed by nearly $6 million from William's Royal Foundation. It's not Gerry Halliwell's first brush with royalty.
Charles is our new manager.
And not William's first experience of how people can end up on the streets.
I first visited a homeless shelter when I was 11 with my mother. The visits we made together left a deep and lasting impression.
No matter how noble the cause, Prince William's campaign is controversial among some, with accusations of hypocrisy and palace overreach. As heir to the throne, he's one of Britain's largest landowners. After earlier hinting at opening up his estate to social housing, there is no firm commitment.
When it comes from someone who's got multiple huge palatial homes and who we are providing with a private income of £22 million off the Duchy of Cornwall, I think a lot of people would also think it's somewhat hypocritical.
Kensington Palace says the Prince's role is to bring people together. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
A much-loved family dog will be reunited with its owner tonight after she says he was stolen twice in 7 weeks. Ollie was finally handed in after pet detectives helped track him down over a state border.
Surrendered and safe, Ollie the Jack Russell finally found in another state after a 7-week search.
I'm just emotional. I'm just over the world.
This security video key to the breakthrough. It shows a teenager entering the Campbelltown home of a Good Samaritan on Sunday. Hannah McCluskey had just found the dog wandering outside.
Just trying to be a good person. We live on the main road, so I didn't want the dog to be hit by a car.
Hannah turned to social media. Ollie was soon identified by microchip as Gloria's missing pooch from Canberra, but 30 minutes later, he was snatched.
It was suspicious that he didn't knock on the door or say thank you for holding the dog.
It was rather horrible to see the footage of that.
Fear not, this pet detective was on the case, calling a man who claims it was all a misunderstanding.
Initially, he was denying having the dog in his possession, and once he realised we've got clear CCTV footage, he started to sort of back down.
Gloria says initially that man told her this.
That he jumped out the window of his car, basically.
Negotiated with him to take the dog to that local vet.
Vets say Ollie is in perfect health, and after 7 long weeks being missing, he'll be reunited with his owner in a matter of hours. Ashley Hansen, 7 News.
We're sending more parcels than ever before. Just last year, Australia Post delivered 2.7 billion items. Coming up, behind the scenes of Western Sydney's new mega sorting facility. The at-home beauty treatments that could leave permanent damage. A popular Kmart lamp recalled over worrying safety fears.
And ahead in sport, the stunning record-breaking haul from Ash Gardner that brought Aussie Ashes Test glory.
Welcome back. Police investigating the disappearance of William Tyrrell won't confirm if they have recommended his foster mother face criminal charges over his death. There are reports police have recommended to prosecutors that the 58-year-old, who can't be identified, be charged with perverting the course of justice and interfering with a corpse. Detectives have long believed William died accidentally, and his foster mother disposed of his body and has lied about it ever since. Australia Post delivers 30,000 parcels to Western Sydney every day. Now it has a mega sorting centre right in the heart of the region. The new state-of-the-art complex officially opened today.
The unwrapping of a tiny plaque to reveal one giant delivery. Welcome to Australia Post's latest and greatest facility in Kemps Creek.
Customers will have better accessibility and faster processing times for their parcels.
The warehouse is the second largest in the network. 200,000 parcels can be processed a day, with the capacity to double, given last year online purchases were still 75% higher than pre-COVID. And it's only 15 kilometres from the new Western Sydney Airport. A package also light on carbon.
A small virtual power plant in and of itself, around 840 tonnes of emissions avoided.
These boxes here used to be people. It's artificial intelligence, and the reality is that it's a lot faster at sorting through parcels than you and I. It means these conveyor belts can always run at 2.7 metres per second. So if you had a parcel here this morning, it'd be with you by now.
Highly engaged in digitisation, in automation, in becoming more and more efficient.
Which is perfect if you care as much about tracking your package as receiving it, but not the greatest for jobs. Each of the 400 staff members has 84 square metres to themselves.
10 years ago there was very little automation, so it was all manual.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
Australians have received electric shocks from defective lamps bought at Kmart. The Marmo table lamps, sold between 2016 and 2019, are being recalled due to the risk of electrocution from exposed wires. The consumer watchdog is telling owners to disconnect the lamps and cut the cord so they can't be used. Time now for a check on finance with Gemma Acton. Gemma, Wall Street might have struggled overnight, but that didn't hold our local market back.
No, Mark. After 4 days of losses, Australian shares have finished higher today. Collins Food played its part, the operator of local KFC restaurants, up 18% after delivering higher earnings than expected. The Aussie dollar has inched back up towards 67.2 US cents, while iron ore has jumped following positive comments on China's economy from a senior government official. And the popularity of video gaming, especially among younger consumers, just keeps growing, with the industry raking in more than 300 billion Australian dollars last year. Experts say global gaming revenue could hit 464 billion within 4 years. Mark.
Gemma, thank you. They soared in popularity during the pandemic, but there are new warnings tonight about at-home beauty treatments that may cost you a lot more in the long run. The DIY lotions that could leave you with permanent damage. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News. But first, Mel is here with sport, and Mel, Cameron Murray wants more bunnies in the Blues.
Yeah, he does, Virgo. There are two teammates he wants to see debut in Game 3 at ANZ Stadium. All your league news is up next. Plus, the practice session of a different kind for an Aussie F1 rising star at Lords and the reunion with a childhood hero. And our Matildas stars fire up for the Women's World Cup with just 23 days to go.
Dolly Parton's winter diet. How a legendary singer lost a kilo a week for months. Her simple how-to eating regime for everyone. Plus, same health cover at a fraction of the cost. How this Aussie mum is saving $69 a month with one call. Start with Sunrise tomorrow.
Welcome back. Gun winger Joseph Suaalii returns for the Roosters against Manly on Sunday, but with their season in free fall and injury toll mounting, Luke Keary is pleading for Chooks fans to believe. Keary convinced they can turn their fortunes around, led by skipper James Tedesco.
Free-falling from the top 8, Joseph Suali'i a much-needed boost. In a brace, Angus Crichton out for several weeks. Sam Walker knee, Brandon Smith hand. Both Butcher brothers on a long injured list. But the buzzword remains believe.
I believe in these players, I believe in the coaching staff, I believe in the club, so we'll start to turn this ship around.
From a similar crisis last year, the Roosters won 8 straight. Their season ended by arch rival Souths in one of the craziest finals ever seen. Skipper James Tedesco to lead the way, despite the disappointment of Origin and being bombed into submission during Sunday's 2-point loss to the Raiders.
I wouldn't expect him to not be disappointed, but Teddy will be fine. I think we all know the type of player he is, type of competitor person he is.
Keary, a rare Rooster slice of luck, recently cleared of a broken jaw.
Had the big golf ball in the face, but everything turned out really good.
Sunday, the Roosters play Manly, boosted by retaining playmaker Josh Schuster. A 3-year deal reportedly worth $2.5 million. Schuster may move to back row after the Sea Eagles signed Tigers halfback Luke Brooks from next season, sidelined by a hamstring injury. Staking a claim Saturday against the Cowboys to be the new number 7, Brandon Wakeham.
Yeah, it's probably all up to the way I play, to be honest.
Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
All 5 of Penrith's rested Origin stars will return for Friday night's showdown with the Storm in Melbourne. Souths travelled to Auckland today for their clash with the Warriors, also on Friday. Cam Murray wants Campbell Graham and Keon Kalel-Matangi to debut in Origin 3.
There's a few players that have definitely earned the right to wear that sky blue jersey, but I'm biased.
With 4 losses from their last 5 and no Latrell, the Bunnies head into the game as outsiders. Reece Walsh's hopes of playing in Origin 3 at ANZ Stadium in just over a fortnight hang in the balance tonight. We go live now to Michelle Bishop at the NRL Judiciary. Shell, the Broncos star, is facing a lengthy ban.
Mel, he's looking at up to about a month on the sidelines. Of course, referred directly to the match by the Match Review Committee here to the Judiciary tonight for his foul-mouthed tirade on Sunday. They believe it was directed towards the referee. He's hired top Sydney lawyer Nick Gabar. His defence, the spray was at a teammate. Huge implications with tonight. If he is found guilty, he not only will miss matches for the Broncos, but he'll be ruled out for Queensland for Game 3, the State of Origin here in Sydney on July 12. But we will keep you updated. Mel.
Thanks very much, Michelle Bishop at League Central. Ashes history has dual meaning after Ash Gardner's record haul bowled Australia to victory in the women's test over England, 8 for 66, 12 wickets for the match. Teammates hope it will finally convince Gardner how special her talent is.
Test matches are rare enough, let alone wins. First victory in 8 years, split by 4 draws.
When you hear us, you will fear us. We are the Southern Stars.
What a compelling case for permanent 5-day games. Both Ash Gardner's second innings 8 for 66 and 12 for 165 for the match. Best ever for Australia, second all-time by anyone.
I'm sure it showed everybody that just the type of player that she is, and hopefully she believes that herself.
Elisa Healy played with fractured fingers on each hand and will continue into the T20 portion of the series.
Yep.
Her husband Mitchell is ready to play at Lords.
We got it down to kind of 12, but we'll work it out tomorrow. I thought everyone that played last week did a great job.
Used once in 2019, Stark was left out of the first test.
I was used to it from last time. That's all good. Yeah, I've been around long enough, been dropped enough. Probably been dropped the most in this squad.
He took it easy on Aussie F1 driver Oscar Piastri. Hitting Nathan Lyon for 6 was not as exciting as meeting Ricky Ponting again.
Nice to see him again and actually, be able to speak to him about stuff.
Whoever would have thought Lords buzzing over Bazball.
There's no sort of fear of losing, and that's something that this team's never going to have.
I actually enjoyed it. You've got a problem solve out there, which is great fun.
Some sanctity remains at the home of cricket, an occasion similar to our pink test for the Ruth Strauss Foundation. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
23 days out from kickoff, Football Australia has released a new marketing campaign for the home World Cup. Ellie Carpenter, Mary Fowler and, of course, Sam Kerr are among the stars on show, celebrating the Matildas' relentless drive to leave a lasting legacy.
Till we do you proud.
Not like the rest.
we're not done till it's done.
Australia play Ireland at Stadium Australia on July 20. Of course, here on 7, Fergo will follow the Matildas' entire journey, hopefully all the way to that World Cup final, August 20. They are so cool.
No one more excited than one Mel McLaughlin.
Correct. Thanks.
There's been a concerning rise in the number of complications from those trying at-home beauty treatments. Their popularity soared during the pandemic, but experts warn there's a real risk of permanent damage to your skin.
Social media shows us how to do beauty treatments at home for less. So Karen Fabrizzi thought, why not me?
Getting a little bit older and just wanting to do some rejuvenating of my skin.
She bought a chemical peel kit online, but moments after applying it to her face, she knew something was wrong.
I couldn't go outside for several days because I was just so red, inflamed and swollen.
Jessica Singh thought she would be safe getting a chemical peel at a salon.
It took a week for it to totally recover. And after that, there was a maintenance cream.
She says she wasn't told when to stop using the cream and kept applying it for months too long.
As a result, my skin has become extremely sensitive. And I've never really recovered from that.
Dermatologists have seen a rise in complications from patients who should have seen a professional.
A lot of beauty products on the internet are not regulated and they do not require TGA approval.
People risk burns, blisters and scarring.
TikTok is not your doctor.
While the online beauty industry is hard to regulate, there are strict new reforms beginning this week around cosmetic surgery and procedures. From Saturday, patients will need to see a GP first, doctors will need stronger accreditation and rules will be tightened on advertising, such as including a procedure's risks. Taking a closer look at those making money from How We Look. Laura Dimmick, 7 News.
Now Angie's back with the forecast. Ange, we're in for a change tomorrow.
Cold and grey across Sydney for our Wednesday. The wet weather won't last too long though. The full 7-day forecast is next.
Tonight, flu cases spiking. What pain relief is best when bed rest isn't an option? That answer from experts. An outback mine going to a very different grid. A sheep grazier's crypto collab. Plus Beatlemania as the Beatles saw it. Paul McCartney's Pentax photos on display. When it breaks, we'll have it at 11:05.
Tonight's 7 News headlines: a leading Sydney underworld figure has been shot dead in the car park of his Bondi Junction apartment. Flight paths for the Western Sydney Airport have been released, with several councils vowing to fight the decision over noise concerns. And police are refusing to comment on reports they've recommended charges against William Tyrrell's foster mother. Now here's Angie with the very latest on Sydney's weather.
Thank you very much, Mark. Winds were much calmer today and we enjoyed some early sunshine. The top was 18 degrees in the CBD, just a touch above the June average. Now, very similar conditions across the suburbs. 17 degrees was the top at Terry Hills, 19 at Penrith. Katoomba reached just 8. Winds still tending westerly, but all the warnings for damaging gusts have now been lifted. The main weather system we're watching at the moment is a cloud band moving across from the nation's northwest. As it edges into western New South Wales this evening, rain and widespread showers will follow. We'll see that rain band shift eastwards during tomorrow, but any wet weather is going to be short-lived, mostly clearing well offshore by about Thursday. Around the capitals, Brisbane is the pick, fine and 24 degrees. We are looking at a different story across the southeast, though. Grey with showers for Canberra, Melbourne, Hobart and Adelaide. Perth will be fine but cool, a temperature range of 4 to 17. Darwin, a very light shower on the top of 33. Back home, here's that change impacting much of New South Wales. With the wet weather will come some chilly daytime temperatures. 7 forecast for Orange, a top of 9 at Parkes. Rainfall totals won't be overly heavy, but they will reach most centres, just the mid-north coast and north coast to miss out. In the metro region, rainfall totals will likely stay around 5 millimetres. It will be chilly though, tops not making it past the mid-teens anywhere. 13 at Hornsby, 14 forecast for Bondi and 14 also at Camden. On the water, winds will tend westerly up to 15 knots at first, tending southwesterly by late evening, and that's on a 1.5 metre swell. Back in the CBD, a low of 10 degrees tonight, 14 on the way tomorrow afternoon, well below average. Showers will develop most likely from mid-morning. To the next 7 days, those showers will clear fairly quickly, just a drop remaining for Thursday morning only on the coast, and we'll finish the working week with some sunshine. Settled too for the weekend. The pick will will be Saturday, top of 19 in the CBD. Then we have some more showers to start the working week. But a change tomorrow won't last too long though, Mark.
Wet and cold.
Indeed.
Thank you, Angie. Before we go, here's a look at a special report we have for you tomorrow night.
Tomorrow in 7 News, spend 24 hours with Paul, employed full-time, forced to live in his van.
What do? Something's got to change, something's got to give.
The new generation of homeless, plus Sydney's bin divers supplying free food for desperate families. 7 News with Mark Ferguson at 6.
That is 7 News for this Tuesday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening. I'm Mark Ferguson from all the team. I hope you have a great night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7plus and with 7news.com.au. You'll know the news now.